Alright guys, this video is going to be on the zero product property. So it's just another way that we're going to solve equations. So here for number 1, we have two parentheses multiplied by each other and then it's equal to 0. So we haven't really seen anything like this before, but they're very simple to solve. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each set of parentheses and we're going to set what's inside the parentheses equal to 0 for both of the sets of parentheses. So we have the first one, which is x plus 3 equals 0, and the second one, which is x minus 5 equals 0. From here, you're going to treat them as two different equations and solve both of them. So the first one, in order to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So this is going to give me x equal to negative 3, so that is one of our answers. We do the same thing for the second equation. To cancel this negative 5, we're going to add 5. So this gives me x equal to 5, and then we are done. So the reason why we have two answers, if you recall to the other day when we talked about quadratic functions, when we had squares, this is what your answers will look like whenever we start doing quadratic functions. Okay? Number 2, we have the same thing, so we're going to separate our parentheses and set both of them equal to 0. So 2x plus 4 equals 0 and x plus 7 equals 0. We're going to solve them separately. The first equation, we have to subtract 4 first, which gives me 2x equals negative 4. Then we have to divide both sides by 2. So x equals negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. So that's my first x value. The second x value over here to solve, we subtract 7. So we get x equals negative 7. Alright? The third one looks differently because we don't have parentheses, but we can get it into a similar setup. So when we look at number 3, they both have an x in common. So if we divide both terms by an x squared divided by an x is x, and then negative 11x divided by x is minus 11 equals 0. So whenever we divide both of them by x, we get this. So instead of having two parentheses, we have one x on the outside and then we have an x minus 11 on the inside of the parentheses. We're going to separate them the same way. So we're going to first set this x equal to 0, which is already solved for me, so that's my first answer. Then we're going to take what's inside the parentheses, x minus 11, and set that equal to 0 and solve like we did over here. So we're going to add 11 to both sides, and so this tells me that my second x value is 11. Alright, and then the last one we're going to do, we have 3 different parentheses. We do the exact same thing even though we have 3 instead of 2. So here we're going to set all 3 of our parentheses equal to 0. So we have x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0, and x minus 7 equals 0. So to solve the first one, we're going to add 1 to both sides. So my first x value is x equals 1. To get my second x value, we're going to subtract 6 to make these cancel. So my second x value is negative 6. And our third x value, to solve this one, we're going to add 7. And so our third x value is x equals 7. So you can do this with multiple sets of parentheses. It's either going to be set up nicely like this for you, where you can go ahead and break them off, or you'll be given an equation where you have to see what they have in common, divide that out first, and then do the exact same thing. Anytime you have one x on the outside, it's always going to be equal to 0, and that will always be one of your x values.